Have you ever hugged someone and hours later, you can still feel the shape of them in your chest, as if your ribs kept a memory? Not romance only, not lust, but something quieter and deeper, like two nervous systems whispering hello. Now be honest, most hugs you give aren't like that. They're quick, stiff, polite. They vanish before you even step away. That gap, the distance between a hug that brands itself into your memory and a hug that dissolves like fog, is why you clicked this video. Maybe you can't explain why a certain person's embrace is impossible to forget. Maybe you're terrified that your own hugs feel forgettable, like you're showing up but not really there. If that stings, stay. This isn't a tutorial in empty affection. It's a map to human connection you can feel in your bones. Let's name the pain. We live in a world that rewards speed, not presence. We touch screens all day and people almost never. We perform closeness with emojis and then flinch when closeness becomes real. So our hugs become choreography. Lean in, tap, tap, release. No breath shared. No weight given. No moment taken. And afterward, we wonder why we still feel lonely in a crowded life. Yet you and I both know there are exceptions, rare, luminous exceptions. The airport reunion where time slows. The hospital hallway where words fail and only arms make sense. The kitchen at 2 a.m. where an apology lands as a forehead on a shoulder and everything softens. Those are the hugs that rewrite a day, sometimes a decade. Those are the ones you can still smell, still hear. The heartbeat, the jacket fabric, the tiny sigh that meant I'm safe. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Unforgettable hugs don't happen by accident. They're built, not by technique alone, but by intention. And intention starts with a choice. Will I be fully here for 10 seconds? 10 seconds of real presence can do what 10 conversations can't. If that sounds dramatic, good. Drama is just attention with the lights on. Before we go further, try this with me now. Imagine someone you miss. See their face with ridiculous clarity. The creases by their eyes, the way they breathe before they speak. Now imagine you hug them without checking out. Your phone is somewhere you don't remember. Your shoulders drop. You feel the actual temperature of their skin to the fabric. You inhale. They exhale. That shared breath is a tiny bridge between two storms. Feel how your body changes? That sensation is proof you already know the language of presence, even if you've forgotten the words. Here's the twist. Unforgettable isn't about squeezing harder or holding longer. It's about what your body says while it's quiet. And your body is talking all the time. If your mind is rushing, your arms tell on you. If your heart is guarded, your shoulder blades lock like doors. People feel this. They may not have language for it, but nervous systems are fluent in subtext. So the question that will steer this entire video is simple and a little scary. What makes a hug cross the line from contact to communion? Over the next few parts, we're going to slice this open. The psychology, the science, the small rituals that, when stacked, transform forgettable habit into a memory that lingers like music after the room goes quiet. Micro promise. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to give a hug that lands and lasts without being weird, clingy, or performative. A hug that says, I see you, not I need you to fix me. If that's something you want in your life, more signal, less noise, don't blink. Quick note before we dive. This isn't about being touchy with everyone. Consent and context matter. This is about reclaiming the moments that already belong to you. Your partner at the door, your friend after a hard day, your parent who pretends they're fine, your child who's growing faster than you can handle. If you're ready to make those seconds count, keep watching. The truth about hugs begins now. Let's slow down and ask the obvious. Why should we even care about hugs? They're simple gestures, right? A quick greeting, a way of saying hello or goodbye. But if that's all you think a hug is, you're missing one of the most powerful, underrated tools for human connection we have. Science first. Every time you give or receive a genuine hug, your body releases oxytocin, the hormone of trust, bonding, and safety. Your cortisol, the stress hormone, drops. Your heart rate slows. Your nervous system gets the signal, I am safe here. That's not metaphor. That's biology. A 20-second hug can literally change your physiology, which means a hug is not just emotional comfort, it's physical medicine. Now, imagine a life without that medicine. Some people don't have to imagine. Loneliness today is an epidemic with real health consequences. Studies have compared chronic loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Think about that. Lack of connection is as lethal as a toxic habit. And most of us walk around thinking we're fine because we have followers or casual acquaintances, but our nervous systems are starving. Here's a story that illustrates this emptiness. A nurse once shared in her care home, an elderly woman told her, "I don't miss walking. I don't miss cooking. What I miss most is being hugged." She wasn't craving more words or more polite smiles. She was craving the weight, the warmth, the closeness of another body reminding her she was alive and not alone. That single confession tells us more about the human condition than 1,000 statistics. And here's where it gets even more personal. If you think back through your life, what do you remember most clearly about your relationships? It's rarely the exact sentences spoken. It's the moments when someone made you feel safe, grounded, held. Sometimes literally. The hug at graduation, when you finally believed you made it. The hug at a funeral that held you together when you were about to shatter. The hug after a fight that carried forgiveness before the words came. This matters because hugs are not about etiquette. They're about survival. They're reminders that beneath all our ambitions, our screens, our schedules, we are mammals. We need touch to feel real. Babies who aren't held don't develop properly. Adults who aren't held slowly harden. Not just emotionally, but physically, as stress carves its marks into the body. And yet, we pretend it doesn't matter. We armor up, we joke about not being a hugger, and we deny ourselves the very thing that makes us most human, connection. Here's the bigger picture. Life is short. Faster than we like to admit, people we love disappear. And when they do, what remains? Memories, the tone of their laugh, the smell of their cooking, and yes, the way they hugged. That's why this isn't trivial. Every hug is a chance to deposit something unforgettable in the bank of another person's memory, to give them a moment that, even when you're gone, still breathes. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave a hug that mattered? Not a polite pat, not a quick squeeze while your mind was elsewhere. A hug that said, "I'm here, right now, with you." If you can't remember, maybe that's the very reason you're watching this video. Drop a comment and tell me, who gave you the hug you'll never forget? Reading those stories not only inspires others, it also reminds you to carry that same energy into your own relationships. Because here's the truth. Hugs matter not because they're ordinary, but because, done right, they're extraordinary. And extraordinary moments are rare. That's why they last. All right, let's be honest with each other. If hugs are this powerful, why do so many of them feel empty? Why do we walk away from most embraces without remembering a thing? The answer is simple. We make mistakes. And most of us don't even know we're making them. Mistake number 1, the polite tap. You've probably done it. Arms around someone, 2 quick pats on the back, like you're burping a baby. That pat is a universal sign of, I'm uncomfortable, let's end this. It's not warmth. It's not presence. It's a dismissal wrapped in politeness. People feel that. Even if they don't call it out, their body registers the lack of sincerity. Mistake number 2, the one-arm side hug. This is the we're sort of close but not really hug. One arm draped over shoulder, bodies angled apart, no real contact. It says, I don't want to let you in. Think about it. If you've ever been greeted like this, did you feel valued? Or did you feel like the other person was already halfway out the door? Side hugs are fine in certain contexts, but if they're your default, you're keeping people at arm's length, literally. Mistake number 3, the overextended grip. Now, on the opposite end, some people hold too long, too tight, turn the hug into a cage. Instead of connection, it becomes control. The other person feels trapped rather than cared for. This often comes from insecurity. Clinging instead of connecting. And let's be real, desperation never feels unforgettable. It feels uncomfortable. Mistake number 4, the mechanical hug. Here's the biggest silent mistake. Hugging without presence. You go through the motions, arms squeeze, release, but your mind is somewhere else. Maybe you're distracted, maybe you're uncomfortable, maybe you just don't think it matters, but the truth is, the other person can feel it. Humans are wired to sense attention. If your body is there but your attention isn't, your hug is hollow. Let me give you a simple example. Have you ever hugged someone while they were already looking over your shoulder? Their body was technically hugging you, but their eyes were scanning the room, already done with the moment. How did that feel? Probably worse than not hugging at all, because a distracted hug is a reminder of absence, not presence. Mistake number 5, hugging out of habit, not intention. We sometimes hug people because that's what you do. At family gatherings, greetings, farewells. But routine without intention creates emptiness. Imagine saying, "I love you," every day but never meaning it. Eventually, the words mean nothing. The same goes for hugs. Children are the perfect teachers here. Watch a child hug. They don't calculate. They don't worry about length or angle. They throw their whole heart into it, often with messy, awkward abandon. And that's exactly why it feels real. Somewhere along the way, adults forget how to do this. We trade authenticity for efficiency. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. Which of these mistakes do you make most often? Do you rush? Do you cling? Do you half hug because you're uncomfortable with intimacy? Be honest, because awareness is a first step to change. And here's something deeper. These mistakes in hugging mirror the mistakes we make in relationships. We give polite taps instead of real presence. We keep people at the side instead of facing them fully. We cling when we're afraid instead of standing secure. We go through motions without meaning. Sound familiar? Hugs expose our patterns. Fix the hug, and you start fixing the way you connect everywhere else. So the challenge here isn't just to avoid mistakes. It's to see them as signals. Signals that you might be afraid of closeness, that you might be distracted by noise, or that you've forgotten the beauty of being fully here. If you're finding yourself nodding right now because one of these mistakes feels like you, hit the like button. It helps me know this is resonating, and it might remind someone else scrolling past that they're not alone in this. Because the truth is, unforgettable hugs aren't rare because they're complicated. They're rare because most of us settle for autopilot. So now we've exposed the mistakes. The question is, how we turn a hug from something routine into something unforgettable. The truth is, the secret isn't about learning a fancy technique. It's about learning to be in the hug. Let me unpack this. An unforgettable hug has 3 invisible ingredients: presence, vulnerability, and intention. 1. Presence. Most hugs fail because the person isn't there. Their arms might be around you, but their mind is on their phone, their errands, their next meeting. Presence means pause in the world. When you hug someone, you breathe with them. You notice the weight of their body, the rhythm of their inhale, the warmth of their skin through fabric. Even a 3-second hug can feel eternal if you are completely present. Think of presence as saying silently, right now, nothing else matters except this moment with you. 2. Vulnerability. This is an ingredient most adults avoid. To hug with vulnerability is to put your armor down. It's to risk being seen as soft, needy, or emotional. But here's the paradox. The more guarded your hug, the less power it has. A vulnerable hug doesn't mean you cling. It means you let the other person feel your humanity. Children do this naturally. They collapse into you. They don't perform. That's why their hugs disarm even the hardest hearts. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's honesty. 3. Intention. Every hug speaks a language. The problem is most hugs say nothing because we never choose a message. But you can, before you embrace, decide what you want to give. Comfort, gratitude, reassurance, love. That silent decision shapes your body language. Thank you. Hug feels different from an I've missed you hug. And I'm proud of you. Hug carries a different weight than an I'm sorry hug. Intention is what turns a gesture into communication. Here's where it gets fascinating. Science confirms this. In one study, participants were blindfolded and asked to identify emotions from a simple touch on the arm. Without words, They correctly sense love, anger, compassion, even gratitude. That means your body already broadcasts emotion, whether you like it or not. An unforgettable hug is one where your message is clear and aligned with your heart. Let's put this into practice with a simple framework. Pause, breathe, convey. Pause. Don't rush into or out of the hug. Give yourself a beat before and after. That's how you signal this moment matters. Breathe. Synchronize your breath for even just a second. It grounds both of you. Convey. Let your arms, your chest, your whole presence say the thing you mean. No words needed. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but won't this feel awkward? Won't people notice I'm doing something different? And my answer is, yes, they will notice. They'll notice that your hug feels alive, that it feels different, and that difference is exactly why it will be remembered. Awkwardness fades. Authenticity lasts. Here's a mini hook to keep you leaning in. Imagine if you gave just one unforgettable hug every single day. That's 365 memories you've planted in the people around you within a year. Imagine the ripple of that. Friends who feel safer, partners who feel loved, children who feel anchored, even strangers who feel seen. All from a gesture we usually rush past. And here's something deeper. When you hug with presence, vulnerability, and intention, you're not just giving. You're also receiving. You open yourself to be changed by that moment. You let their heartbeat regulate yours, their warmth soften your edges, their breath remind you that you're alive too. That's the true exchange. If this idea is landing for you, if you're thinking of someone you want to try this with, hit subscribe and stay with this channel. Because what we're doing here isn't just theory. It's practice for a life that feels fuller, deeper, more human. The secret is simple, but it isn't easy. Give your full self to the hug. That's what makes it unforgettable. Let me take you into a story that captures everything we've been talking about, but in a way science alone never could. Because sometimes one hug changes everything. There was a young man named Daniel. He wasn't cold, not unkind, just raised in a family where affection was scarce. His parents weren't bad people. They just didn't grow up hugging much themselves. So Daniel learned early on to keep emotions inside, to smile politely, to shake hands instead of embracing. By the time he reached adulthood, hugs felt foreign, almost embarrassing. He didn't realize how much this silent distance shaped his life. Years passed, and Daniel went away for college, then work. Family visits were short, greetings were stiff, and the word love was spoken like a formality, not a truth. Until one winter evening, when Daniel returned to visit his grandmother after years apart. She had aged dramatically. Her hands shook, her back was bent, her voice was soft, like wind trying to hold on. But her eyes lit up when she saw him. She reached out her arms without hesitation. Daniel froze for a second. He wasn't used to it, but then something inside him cracked, and he stepped forward. What happened next became the most unforgettable hug of his life. Her arms didn't squeeze hard. They weren't strong anymore, but they carried weight. Years of longing, of prayers whispered, of meals cooked and never thanked for, of birthdays remembered even when no one else cared. That hug said, "You are my grandson. You are my blood. And no matter how far you've gone, I have missed you every single day." Daniel later said it felt like time bent. He could smell her lavender lotion. He could hear her faint heartbeat. He could feel the tremble in her shoulders. For those 10 seconds, the years of distance dissolved. There were no unspoken regrets, no stiff politeness, just presence, vulnerable, intentional. And then a thought hit him with terrifying force. This might be the last time, the last hug, the last chance to say, without words, that he loved her back. And so, instead of pulling away quickly like he always did, Daniel stayed. He let himself collapse into her fragile frame. He let the silence hold what words never had. That hug changed him. Not overnight, not perfectly, but deeply. From that day, he promised himself he would never again give a half-hearted embrace. He realized hugs weren't optional. They were lifelines. They were how we anchor each other in a world that keeps trying to drift us apart. Months later, his grandmother passed away, and at her funeral, when relatives wept and stories were told, Daniel didn't remember the last words she had spoken to him. He remembered that hug, the smell, the softness, the trembling hands. It lived in him like a warm ember, a reminder connection too deep for death to erase. Here's the point. Unforgettable hugs are not about technique. They are about truth. That hug was unforgettable because it carried decades of unspoken love. It was vulnerable. It was present. It was intentional. And it became the story Daniel carried for the rest of his life. Now ask yourself, who in your life deserves that kind of memory from you? Who will one day leave this world? And what hug will you leave with them? Because here's the secret. We don't control how long we live, but we do control the moments we give. If you're feeling this, take a second and comment. Who gave you the hug you'll never forget? Sharing your story might help someone else realize they're not alone, and might even inspire them to hug differently tonight. Because sometimes one hug is all it takes to change a life. We've looked at science, psychology, and even personal stories. But let's zoom out for a moment. What does something as ordinary as a hug teach us about life itself? This is where Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of strength, wisdom, and presence, shines a light. The Stoics remind us daily, memento mori, remember that you must die. It sounds harsh, but it isn't meant to depress us. It's meant to wake us up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine applying that to hugs. What if the hug you give tonight is the last hug you'll ever offer that person? Would you rush it? Would you tap them on the back and pull away quickly? Or would you sink into it, knowing this moment is unrepeatable, unreturnable, and priceless? Here's the paradox. Stoicism is often mistaken for being cold, emotionless. But in reality, Stoics teach us to treasure life by facing its limits. And that's exactly why hugs matter. Every embrace is a reminder of impermanence. You cannot hug the same person twice in the exact same way, because you and they are already changing. The moment is fleeting. That's what makes it sacred. Seneca once said, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." How many hugs have we postponed? How many times have we said, "I'll visit next week," or "I'll hug them when it feels right," only to find out that chance is gone? A hug is not just touch. It's presence captured before it slips into memory. Think about this. When you hug someone, your body aligns with theirs. Your breathing adjusts to their rhythm. Your heartbeat often synchronizes. It is the most Stoic reminder that we are not isolated islands. We are interconnected. The hug teaches us that life is not about control or possessions, but about connection and presence. In fact, we can see hugging as a Stoic exercise. Discipline of perception. Notice the moment. Truly feel the warmth, the texture, the presence of person. Don't let your mind drift. Discipline of action. Choose to hug fully, sincerely, without calculation. It's a moral act of kindness. Discipline of will. Accept that this moment is fleeting. Don't cling. Don't demand it last forever. Embrace it, then let go with gratitude. That is Stoicism in practice, anchored in something as simple as human touch. And here's where it gets even deeper. Unforgettable hugs are not really about physicality. They're about awareness. They remind us of what really matters. In the end, people won't remember your titles, your salary, or your possessions. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember the hug you gave when they thought they were breaking. They'll remember that you were there. So the next time you hug someone, let it be more than a reflex. Let it be a meditation, a pause in the chaos, a prayer of gratitude whispered through your body. Let it be proof that even in a noisy, distracted world, you chose to be fully alive, fully human, fully present. That's a Stoic lesson hidden in the simplest gesture. Life is short, love is urgent, and presence is everything. Backhand index pointing right if this part resonates. Let me know in the comments. Tell me how you'll approach your next hug differently. Because wisdom isn't just reading, it's practicing. So here we are, the final and perhaps most important part. You've heard the science, the mistakes, the solutions, the stories, even the philosophy. But all of it leads to one simple, powerful truth. Life is short, and hugs are one of the purest ways we get to remind each other that we belong. Think about it. What if the hug you give tomorrow is the last memory someone carries of you? What if the next hug you receive is the one you'll replay in your mind years later when the person is gone? We assume there will always be another chance. But the Stoics warn us, nothing is promised. Not another day, not another conversation, not another embrace. So let me ask you directly, who do you need to hug today? Not when it's convenient, not when the timing feels perfect. Today, your parent who pretends they don't need it. Your partner who's been carrying silent stress. Your friend who jokes too much because they don't want to admit they're hurting. Or maybe yourself in the mirror with compassion you've been withholding. Here's the challenge I leave you with. Before the sun sets, choose one person and give them an unforgettable hug. Not rushed, not mechanical. A hug with presence, vulnerability, intention. Let them feel what your words can't quite say. Notice how their body softens. Notice how your body changes too. Write that memory in their nervous system and in yours. And then come back here. Share it in the comments. Tell me, what happened when you hugged differently? Did they notice? Did you? Imagine hundreds of stories piling up below this video. A community of people proving that something as small as a hug can ripple into something enormous. Because here's the real climax. Unforgettable hugs are not just about them. They change you. They remind you that you are capable of depth, of stillness, of love. They interrupt the autopilot life and bring you back to the truth. That connection is what we're here for. So if this video has sparked something in you, here's what to do. Backhand index pointing right, hit the like button if you felt even a single sentence land in your chest. Backhand index pointing right, share this video with someone you want to hug today. It might be the nudge they need. Backhand index pointing right and subscribe, because this channel isn't about shallow tips. It's about building a life rich with meaning, presence, and unforgettable moments. Let me leave you with one final question to carry through your day. When you leave a room, do people just remember your face, or do they remember the way you made them feel in their bones? Don't waste your hugs. Make them unforgettable.